Welcome, Shadow Seekers, to American Shadows, Crimes and Chronicles. Today, we're unearthing a tale that'll haunt your thoughts long after it ends. Whether you're glued to the screen or just listening in, you're in for a wild ride through history's darkest corners. If you're new, hit subscribe to join our mission of exposing America's hidden truths. Regulars, your likes fuel our journey into the unknown. Now, let's peel back the layers of time and reveal the secrets beneath. Ready? Let's begin. The shot heard across America, Michael Brown and the birth of BLM. Hello friends, you're watching American Shadows, and today we're delving into an event that ignited a firestorm of controversy and sparked a national movement. On August 9th, 2014, in Ferguson, Missouri, the shooting of Michael Brown, an unarmed black teenager, by a white police officer, set off a chain reaction that would reverberate across the nation for years to come. What transforms a routine police encounter into a tragedy? How does a single incident in a small Midwest town become the catalyst for a nationwide reckoning on race and policing? And why, a decade later, does the name Michael Brown still evoke such powerful emotions? Before we unravel this complex and contentious chapter in recent American history, I want to extend my heartfelt thanks to all of you who support our work. Your engagement fuels our passion for uncovering the stories that have shaped our nation. Now, let's step back to that fateful summer day in 2014. Imagine, if you will, the oppressive heat of an August afternoon in Ferguson. The air is thick with humidity, and the sound of cicadas fills the air. On Canfield Drive, 18-year-old Michael Brown and his friend Dorian Johnson are walking down the middle of the street. Michael, a recent high school graduate, stands 6'4" inches tall, a gentle giant, as his friends called him. He has dreams of becoming a rapper and is set to start college at Vatterott College in just a few weeks. At 11:54 a.m., a police SUV pulls up beside them. Officer Darren Wilson, responding to a reported theft at a nearby convenience store, tells the young men to use the sidewalk. What happens next is a matter of intense dispute, but the outcome is tragically clear. By 12:03 p.m., Michael Brown lies dead in the street, his body left uncovered for 4 hours under the sweltering Missouri sun. The official account states that Brown struggled with Wilson through the window of the police vehicle, attempted to take the officer's gun, and then charged at him. This version of events is hotly contested by some eyewitnesses and Brown's supporters, who claim that Brown had his hands up in surrender when he was shot. As word spreads, the community's long simmering frustrations boil over. By nightfall, the streets of Ferguson are filled with protesters, their angry chants echoing off buildings. "Hands up! Don't shoot!" The phrase becomes a rallying cry, encapsulating years of perceived injustice. The air is thick with tension, punctuated by the acrid smell of tear gas and the rhythmic thud of rubber bullets. But what led to this moment? How did Ferguson become a powder keg ready to explode? The Department of Justice's investigation would later reveal a pattern of racial bias in Ferguson's law enforcement. Black residents, who made up 67% of the population, accounted for 85% of traffic stops and 93% of arrests. The city used its police force as a revenue generator, imposing hefty fines for minor infractions, trapping many residents in a cycle of debt and incarceration. As one Ferguson resident, Darren Seals, put it, "We're just tired of being shot and killed, and nobody saying nothing." His words capture the frustration that had been building for years, a frustration that found its voice in the protests following Michael Brown's death. As days turn into weeks, Ferguson becomes ground zero for a national debate on race, policing, and justice in America. Images of militarized police confronting protesters fill television screens and social media feeds. The nation watches in shock as an American city transforms into what looks like a war zone. The protests spread beyond Ferguson. In New York, thousands march across the Brooklyn Bridge. In Oakland, demonstrators shut down a major freeway. The name Michael Brown becomes a symbol, joining a growing list of Black Americans whose deaths at the hands of police have sparked outrage. Eric Garner in New York, Tamir Rice in Cleveland, Freddie Gray in Baltimore. On November 24th, 2014, the grand jury decides not to indict Officer Wilson. St. Louis County Prosecutor Robert McCulloch announces the decision in a lengthy televised statement. As he speaks, tensions in Ferguson reach a boiling point. The announcement sparks renewed protests across the country. In Ferguson, buildings burn as frustrations boil over. But from the ashes of these protests, a movement grows stronger. The Black Lives Matter movement, which had begun a year earlier after the acquittal of George Zimmerman in the shooting death of Trayvon Martin, gains significant momentum. It brings issues of police brutality and systemic racism to the forefront of national discourse. The movement's co-founder, Alicia Garza, describes it as an ideological and political intervention in a world where Black lives are systematically and intentionally targeted for demise. The impact of Michael Brown's death extends far beyond Ferguson. Police departments across the country begin to implement reforms. Body cameras become standard issue in many jurisdictions. In 2015, the federal government launches the National Initiative for Building Community Trust and Justice, a program aimed at improving relationships between communities and criminal justice institutions. De-escalation training and community policing initiatives gain traction. In Camden, New Jersey, a complete overhaul of the police department focuses on community relations, leading to a significant drop in violent crime. Companies and organizations start to grapple with issues of diversity and inclusion in unprecedented ways. Tech giants like Google and Facebook publish diversity reports and pledge to improve representation in their workforce. But change is slow and controversies continue. In 2020, the deaths of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and others reignite the movement, showing how much work remains to be done. The echo of "I can't breathe," Floyd's last words, resonates with the unresolved tensions laid bare in Ferguson 6 years earlier. As we reflect on the decades since Michael Brown's death, we're left with challenging questions. How do we balance public safety with individual rights? Can we bridge the deep-seated mistrust between law enforcement and communities of color? And how do we move forward as a nation when perspectives on such fundamental issues remain so deeply divided? The story of Michael Brown is more than just a tragedy. It's a mirror held up to American society, reflecting our deepest struggles and aspirations. It challenges us to confront uncomfortable truths about race, power, and justice in our nation. Consider the words of Leslie McSpadden, Michael Brown's mother, who said, "I can't be quiet, I have to be his voice." Her ongoing activism, along with countless others inspired by her son's story, shows how personal tragedy can fuel a movement for change. This is American Shadows, where we peer into the darker corners of our nation's past and present. Until next time, remember that sometimes the most pivotal moments in history are not grand gestures or sweeping reforms, but individual incidents that touch a collective nerve. The echoes of that fateful day in Ferguson continue to resonate, reminding us of how far we've come and how far we still have to go in the pursuit of justice and equality for all Americans. As we go about our daily lives, let's take a moment to reflect on the legacy of Michael Brown and the movement his death ignited. For in the end, it's not just about one tragic incident, but about who we are as a nation and who we aspire to be.